Brennan brings the pain in EXU Divergence. D&D is getting a live-action Netflix show and new details on the real villain of One Piece Season 2.
I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
Welcome to Fantasy News Friday on the Character Sheet, your look at the week's biggest fantasy and TTRPG news. Before we dive into huge Critical Role, D&D, and One Piece news, why not take a second to hit those like and subscribe buttons to help us keep this channel growing? And then, let's dive into the news. Brennan returned on Critical Role and immediately let us know, after the highest production intro for a Critical Role episode we've ever seen, this kind of half Game of Thrones, half Westworld, that this version of Exandria, in the aftermath of Aor's fall, is an actual nightmare, with the gods at war and the mortals suffering horribly, as we are introduced not to a party of adventurers, but instead, a party of level 0 characters with NPC stats, serving as prisoners and slaves in a war camp of the Strife Emperor. These characters are badly abused, barely alive, and just desperate to flee, and so terrified of their captors they don't even help when one of the lords pledged to the Strife Emperor stabs his child's hand into the table with a knife to keep him from fidgeting. Brennan makes it clear that when the gods go to war, as the primes and betrayers have, as the primes fight to create the divine gate and seal themselves away, and the betrayers fight to stay, it is the mortals who suffer. And if it weren't for the betrayers' inability to work together, allowing the Dawnfather, Stormbringer, and Wildmother to ambush them in 3v1 fights, things could go very differently. As it is, several primes have still been defeated or injured. This also hints that Campaign 3's ending may not be all rainbows and sunshine the way it was portrayed in the final episode, as now history has shown us that when the gods are walking Exandria, they will find a reason to go to war, and Exandria will suffer. In the final beats of the episode, after the party of level 0 nobodies just barely survives and escapes their prison and finally finds water, which was treated with more excitement than stumbling across an unguarded treasure hoard, they learn that the gods are attempting to leave Exandria, and that some of the other prisoners they fled with have died. And they even have a brief conversation with the Stormbringer himself, who leaves behind what could be the first vestige of divergence, the Storm Girdle, for their band of survivors. But not before mentioning the days of miracles are coming to an end. We cannot believe how dark this started, and we cannot wait to see how dark it gets when episode 2 drops.
So dark? You sure you're not from the DC universe?
Dungeons & Dragons is getting a live-action TV show on Netflix, produced by Sean Levy of Deadpool and Stranger Things fame, no less. This new show, first reported by Deadline, will have no ties to the Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves movie or the canceled TV show spin-off featuring those characters, and instead will be some kind of new story set in the world of the Forgotten Realms. This is huge news for D&D fans who feared they would never get a live-action D&D show after Hasbro canceled their plans for one in the aftermath of Honor Among Thieves' disappointing box office and sold off their film and TV division, and then Paramount Plus canceled the D&D show they had in development. But this new show, which is simply titled The Forgotten Realms, leaves the door open for a lot of major cameos from popular Dungeons & Dragons characters. We'd be shocked if we didn't at least get some cameos from the wildly popular Baldur's Gate 3 cast in the new series, but the show could also feature other Forgotten Realms standouts like the ever-popular Drizzt, or even a new take on Elminster, just to name a few potential high-powered cameos. No word yet on a potential release date for the TV show, but with Sean Levy as producer and Drew Crivello serving as writer and showrunner, we have high hopes that this live-action D&D series could really be something special.
Good news, everyone!
And finally, a new interview with One Piece star Katie Sagal revealed some surprising info on the true villain of One Piece Season 2, and just what story arcs could be pushed back into Season 3. Sagal, who joined the cast for Season 2 as Dr. Kareha of Drum Island, aka the mentor of Tony Chopper, spoke with Screen Rant about the details of Season 2 and the role that Joe Manganiello's Crocodile will play in the season. Talking about Manganiello and his role as Crocodile, Sagal said, quote, "He's on it too, except I think they're setting him up for the 3rd season. I do believe he came in for the 2nd season, sort of towards the end, because I think he's the big arch-villain in the 3rd season. All the manga people will know, I don't read the manga." Since Crocodile doesn't really become the main antagonist of the Straw Hats until the Arabasta arc, that means Season 2 will probably only set up the arrival of Luffy and his crew in Arabasta at the very end of the season, with Crocodile appearing briefly as the shadowy leader of Baroque Works to set up his big reveal as the main villain for Season 3. And while that means fans may not get some of that amazing Arabasta arc action they were hoping for in Season 2, it does show that the One Piece team appears to be devoting all of Season 3 to the Arabasta saga, which is great considering how much that part of the story is still influencing One Piece even to this day. So while we may not get very much of Joe Manganiello's Crocodile in Season 2, which probably also means we'll see very little of Nico Robin, we will be given a ton of time to explore one of One Piece's most nuanced and layered villains in Season 3, which would definitely be worth the wait. Also probably means, given that we know we will be heading to Drum Island this season, that the former king of the island, King Wapol, will be the major boss battle that Luffy has to take care of this season. So we can't wait to find out how all that goes down when One Piece Season 2 drops sometime next winter. And that's all we have for Fantasy News Friday this week. Let us know what your favorite story was down in the comments, and don't forget to hit those like and subscribe buttons.